It was just after 8 a.m. on a dull Tuesday morning in Mon, Georgia. The sky hung low and heavy, a soggy slab of gray that made even the streetlights seem half asleep. On Vineville Avenue, nestled quietly between a dry cleaner and a pawn shop, sat a modest, no-frills diner. The kind of place where the coffee's never more than average, but the warmth of the people keeps regulars coming back. Clarence Dupree was already there, just like every week, back against the wall, sitting in the booth by the window. His army jacket had seen more years than the dishwasher in the back. It was worn at the cuffs, faded at the shoulders, but always clean. His beard was rough but trimmed, and he carried the faint scent of black coffee and hand-rolled tobacco. Not the kind from store-bought cigarettes, but the ones wrapped with a little too much paper. Clarence didn't talk much, but when he did, he spoke with quiet respect. "Morning, Mr. D," said Carla, the waitress. She was in her early 30s, juggling 2 kids and a diner floor like a seasoned pro, managing chaos with a smile. "Hey Carla," Clarence said. "You got any more of that peach cobbler today?" She chuckled. "You know we don't start that till lunch." Then, without asking, "You want your usual?" He nodded. She didn't need clarification. Scrambled eggs, grits, 2 strips of bacon, toast, not burnt, and a cup of black coffee. No cream, no sugar. Always the same. Behind the counter, Harold, the diner's owner, looked over his glasses. "That man could run this place better than me with one hand tied behind his back," he mumbled to Carla. "He's the only reason I don't walk out of here some days," she replied. To most people walking in off the street, Clarence looked like a man hanging on by a thread. No car, no permanent address, shoes that had long outlived their prime. But inside this little diner, he was more than a regular, he was family. Quiet, steady, and trusted. Clarence sipped his coffee slowly, his eyes drifting to the TV above the counter where a news story about veterans losing their benefits played. He didn't react. Just a long, quiet exhale through his nose, before turning back to the view outside the window. Traffic was picking up. Students heading to Mercer University, parents doing school drop-offs, folks rushing toward Robins Air Force Base. No one noticed the black and white police cruiser pulling up out front. No lights, no sirens. Just a calm, practiced arrival. 2 officers stepped out like it was just another Tuesday. Officer Langley, tall, broad, like he still missed his college football days, and his partner Officer Reese, shorter, square-faced, clipboard in hand. They walked in like they'd done it 100 times, because they had. Carla spotted them first and gave a polite smile. "Morning, officers." Usual table. They didn't answer. Langley's eyes locked onto Clarence immediately. "Sir," he said as he approached, "you a customer here?" Clarence blinked once, slowly. "I am. You buy anything?" "Coffee. Breakfast's on the way." Langley glanced toward the counter. "You got a receipt?" Before Clarence could reply, Carla stepped in. "He's fine. He's here all the time." Langley didn't look her way. "Did I ask you?" Carla started to speak, but Harold raised a calming hand from the back. "Don't, Carla," he said gently. Clarence didn't move, didn't raise his voice. "I paid. She took the order. You can ask her." Reese squinted. "You carrying ID?" Clarence reached slowly into his jacket, pulling out an old, worn leather wallet. From it, he slid a Veterans Affairs card across the table. Langley barely glanced at it. "This all you got?" "It's all I need," Clarence replied. Reese chuckled like Clarence had just cracked a joke. "Yeah, we'll see." But before either officer could say more, the diner shifted. A stillness settled over the room, the kind that lets you know something is about to go very wrong, very fast. Reese took a step forward, arms folded like he was measuring Clarence for a mugshot. "How long you been here?" he asked. Clarence looked up, eyes meeting the clock on the wall. "About 30 minutes, Clarence replied, glancing at the clock. Langley tilted his head slightly. "And how long you planning on staying?" Clarence's eyes narrowed just a fraction, but his tone remained steady. "Long enough to eat my breakfast, like everyone else." Carla appeared with his plate, placing it gently in front of him, trying not to make it seem rushed. "Here you go, Mr. Dupree." Langley raised an eyebrow. "He already ordered?" This time, Carla didn't back down. "He comes in every Tuesday. Pays in cash. Always polite. He's a regular, sir." Reese turned back to Clarence. "You homeless?" Clarence nodded slowly. "I don't have a house, no. But I got a home in this town." Langley gave a short, smug smirk. "You got smart answers, huh?" Clarence didn't respond. He picked up his fork and began to eat, hoping they'd take the hint and leave him be. But they didn't. Langley's voice rose slightly, like he was performing for an audience. See, this is the problem. People think they can just camp out wherever they want. Take advantage of kind folks like you all. He scanned the room like he expected applause. That fair to everyone else in here? No one answered. No one wanted to escalate things. A couple at the next table stared hard at their food. A delivery driver near the door shifted awkwardly but stayed silent. Clarence calmly cut into his eggs, chewed, swallowed, then dabbed his mouth with a napkin. I served in Iraq. Twice. Came back, worked security in Alabama until my knees gave out. I get by. I don't steal. I don't beg. I pay for my food. So why are you talking to me like I broke into someone's house? Langley chuckled, but there was no humor in it. Relax. Just doing our job, making sure everything's in order. Carla stepped forward again, eyes sharp. Then checked the register. He paid. I rang him up. What else do you need? Langley ignored her. Reese pulled out a notepad. Name? He asked. Clarence raised an eyebrow. It's on the card. I asked for your name out loud. Reese repeated. Clarence sighed. Clarence Dupree. Date of birth. February 10th, 1968. Langley nodded to Reese. Run it. Reese walked out toward the cruiser, mumbling under his breath. From behind the counter, Harold finally stepped out, drying his hands with a towel. Officers, he said, calm but firm, can I talk to you outside for a moment? Langley didn't budge. We're good, sir. No, you're not, Harold said, his voice a little stronger now. That man has never caused trouble in my business. You got an actual reason to be here, or are we just harassing veterans now? Langley finally turned to him. Sir, we're responding to a complaint. Harold frowned. From who? Langley didn't answer. He shifted uneasily, eyes flicking back to Clarence like he was waiting for anything to justify all this. Clarence took another bite of toast, chewed, and gently pushed his plate forward, finished. Then, slowly and deliberately, he reached inside his jacket once more. Langley's posture stiffened. What's that? Clarence pulled out a scratched-up flip phone, ancient by modern standards. The kind only someone like him would still carry. With one hand, he flipped it open and pressed a button on speed dial. Clarence, Harold started, concern creeping into his voice. Clarence raised one finger without looking. The line clicked. He brought the phone to his ear. Pause. Then, as calm as ever, he spoke. It's happening again. And just like that, the diner changed. The air grew thick with tension, the silence loud enough to make the windows rattle. No one knew what that call meant, but they could feel it. Langley's voice cut through the quiet, sharp and suspicious. Who the hell did you just call? Clarence didn't answer. Didn't flinch. He closed the phone with a soft snap, set it on the table beside his plate, and leaned back. You said you were just doing your job, Clarence said, voice low, steady. Now I'm doing mine. Langley stepped forward, puffed up, hands on his belt. Sir, I'm going to need you to stand up and come outside with me. Harold had had enough. No, he's not going anywhere. Not unless you're arresting him. Just then, Reese returned from the cruiser, tablet in hand. Name checks out, he muttered. VA database confirms veteran status. Honorable discharge. 2 tours. Bronze Star. Reese read from the tablet, but Langley didn't blink. He homeless. Yeah. No fixed address. Was cited last year in Albany for loitering. Langley nodded like that was all he needed. Then he's a drifter. Doesn't belong sitting here all day, taking up space. That's when Carla slammed her notepad onto the counter, the sharp crack startling everyone nearby. You've got regulars who sit for hours sipping 1 cup of coffee and nobody says a word. But you come in here and go after the one man who actually earned that right? Langley turned to her, pointing. Ma'am, I'd advise you to step back. You don't get to advise me in my workplace, she snapped. Clarence stayed seated, still calm, but his fingers tapped the table. Once. Twice. 3 times. Not angry, just tired. The kind of tired that doesn't come from lack of sleep, but from carrying too much for too long. You see me as a problem, he said, voice low, steady. But I'm not the one making a scene. That was the final straw. Langley's jaw tightened. That's it. Stand up. Now. Clarence rose slowly. Taller than he'd seemed. Straighter, too. He looked Langley in the eye. I don't want trouble. You should have thought about that before you got clever, Langley muttered, reaching for his cuffs. But before his hand could close on Clarence's wrist, the front door slammed open fast, hard. The bell didn't even jingle right. It just smacked against the wall and bounced. A man walked in. Mid-40s. Navy suit. dark overcoat. No badge visible, but authority radiated from every step. He moved straight to the booth, didn't pause, didn't ask, didn't blink. He held up a black leather ID case. Assistant Director Mark Sorrell, Department of Justice. Langley froze, hands still hovering near the cuffs. Sorrell's voice was smooth, calm, deadly. Officers, I'm going to need your badge numbers. Now. Reese stumbled. Sir, we were just responding to it. There was no complaint, Sorrell interrupted, razor sharp. We monitor certain keywords on open channels. You were recorded. Both of you. Violating departmental protocol from the moment you started questioning a civilian without cause. This man is a veteran, not a suspect. Langley's face turned red. With all due respect, you're not our supervisor. No, Sorrell said coolly. I'm your investigation. Clarence sat back down, slow, deliberate, like he expected this all along. Behind the counter, Harold exhaled hard through his nose. Carla stared, wide-eyed, flicking her gaze from one man to the next like she was watching a live courtroom drama. Langley looked around the room. Everyone was watching. Everyone heard. Everyone saw. And the worst part? Reese's body cam was still rolling, capturing every word. Sorrell didn't sit, didn't smile, didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. I suggest you both step outside, he said simply. Langley and Reese hesitated, caught like kids with their hands in the cookie jar. But eventually, they walked out silent, heads down, shoulders stiff. Inside, the diner held its breath. It was quiet, but not calm. It was the kind of quiet that watches. Clarence reached for his coffee, still warm. Sorrell remained standing beside the booth, hands behind his back. He leaned in slightly, voice just above a whisper. You all right? Clarence nodded. Didn't want to call you. I know, Sorrell replied. But you were right to. Carla finally found her voice. Wait, what just happened? Who is he? Clarence looked up. Friend. From the old days. Harold crossed his arms. You got friends who walk in with a DOJ badge and shut down cops mid-complaint? Clarence gave the faintest smile. Depends on the complaint. Sorrell turned to them. I apologize for the disruption. We won't be long. I need a few minutes with Mr. Dupree. Harold nodded. Say what you need. Coffee's on the house. Clarence shook his head. Put it on me. I always pay. Carla gave him a soft smile. Of course you do. Sorrell sat across from him. His tone shifted, less official now, like talking to an old war buddy. Which he was. You sure you're okay? Clarence shrugged. Had worse mornings. Had better, too. Sorrell's eyes narrowed. This the third time this year? Yeah. You want me to push it up the chain? Clarence didn't answer right away. He just folded his napkin neatly and placed it beside his empty plate. Do what you gotta do. I'm tired of explaining myself to people who already made up their minds. You shouldn't have to, Sorrell said. Not after what you gave up for this country. Clarence's face hardened for just a second. They only care about that when I'm in uniform, not when I'm sitting in a diner trying to eat. Sorrell sighed. They'll be suspended. At the very least. I don't want apologies, Clarence said. I want respect. I want them to learn something. Sorrell nodded. The body cam footage will be flagged today. You'll get a call from Internal Affairs. Probably 2 interviews. Then we notify the press. Clarence didn't flinch. Let them see it. Maybe next time they'll think twice. Outside the window, Reese paced near the patrol car. Langley was on his phone, face stormy, pale, and cornered. Inside, Carla returned to refilling cups, but her eyes kept drifting back to Clarence. She'd never seen this side of him before. No one had. And that's the thing about men like Clarence. They don't yell. They don't brag. They carry more than most, and they do it in silence. Sorrell rose. He placed a business card, face down, on the table. You call that number if anyone else tries anything. You understand me? Clarence nodded. I appreciate you. Sorrell paused, looked him in the eye. The people who matter do. But out there. He nodded toward the door. Something's coming. What Clarence didn't know yet, what no one knew, was that the worst wasn't behind them. It was the internet. The city is already whispering about Clarence. He shrugs. I didn't do anything wrong. Harold grunts behind the counter. You didn't. But folks don't care about facts. They care about drama. Clarence takes a sip. Then they better bring their own cup. I'm not pouring it. Carla chuckles, but it doesn't last long. The bell above the diner door rings again. This time it's not a cop, not a customer. It's a teenage girl in a hoodie and sweatpants, her phone glued to her hand. You him. she asks, stepping toward Clarence's booth without hesitation. Clarence looks up, confused. You're the guy from the video, right? The veteran at Henry's Diner frowns. How do you? It's all over TikTok, she says. Somebody posted the body cam footage, tagged the location. It's everywhere. My brother's in college and he saw it. Clarence leans back, jaw tight. That was fast. Fast? She laughs incredulously. You're trending, man. People are pissed. Those cops, Twitter's eating them alive. Harold walks over, brow furrowed. Wait, who posted the footage? Don't know, she shrugs. But it's got over 400,000 views in like 2 hours. Carla puts a hand on her hip. What exactly does the video show? The girl scrolls and turns the screen. Here, look. On the tiny screen, Reese's body cam flickers to life. You hear Langley asking Clarence for ID. You hear Carla trying to speak up. You see the moment Langley reaches for his cuffs, then Clarence quietly pulls out his phone and makes the call. Then cell's arrival. It plays out like a scene in a movie. Clarence looks away. He doesn't like watching himself on screens. It feels like being peeled open in front of strangers. People are calling you a hero, the girl says softly, like a silent warrior kind of hero. There's even a hashtag ClarenceDRI. Clarence shakes his head. I'm not a hero. You're not invisible anymore, she says, then walks out just as quickly as she came in. Carla pulls out her phone, taps around, then looks at Clarence. She's right. You're all over. There are articles popping up. Even a reporter from Savannah wants an interview. Clarence sighs. That's not what I wanted. You sure? Harold asks. Because maybe it's what we needed. People finally seeing what's been happening right under their noses. Clarence doesn't answer. He looks down at the VA card still sitting on the edge of the table. That little piece of plastic never got him a job. Never got him an apartment. Never even got him a thank you when he needed it most. But now it's viral content. And that feels complicated. Behind the scenes, bigger forces are waking up. Because when the internet gets involved, stories don't just spread, they explode. By noon, Clarence's name isn't just floating around social media. It's running across national news tickers. Local station WRBL calls it another example of unchecked authority. CNN runs a short segment before lunch. By evening, the video has been clipped, stitched, remixed, and dissected by every online pundit with a webcam and an opinion. People want to know, who is this quiet, steady man? Where did he come from? What has he been through? And how did two local cops get so comfortable disrespecting him in broad daylight? They start digging. That's when the truth about ClarenceDRI begins to come out. It starts with an old, grainy black and white photo taken somewhere in Fallujah. Clarence stands beside two other men in full combat gear, sand-crusted uniforms, rifles slung over their shoulders, exhaustion in their eyes. The caption reads, Operative Clarence Dupree, Task Force Wolfhound, 2006. The internet doesn't know what Task Force Wolfhound is, so they dig deeper. Turns out, it was a covert joint operations unit handling hostage recovery missions classified work. Most files are sealed, but veterans talk quietly, respectfully. And when one shares a redacted commendation letter addressed to Clarence from 2007, the story breaks wide open. This wasn't just some regular grunt. ClarenceDRI saved people not once, not twice, but dozens of times. No interviews on record. No medals on any wall. No speeches. Just a paper trail of excellence hidden in silence. Back in the diner, Clarence has no idea how far this has gone. He doesn't do Twitter. He doesn't care for TikTok. He's sitting in the same booth, flipping through a local newspaper that doesn't even have the story yet. Sorrel calls again. You might want to prepare yourself. For what? Clarence asks. The phones are ringing off the hook. Congressional offices. Newsrooms. A few big-name vets from D.C. want to shake his hand. Some nonprofit even wants to buy him a house. Clarence blinks. Buy me a house? Yeah, you're the internet's newest hero. Clarence laughs quietly. It's not joy, it's disbelief. All I did was sit down for breakfast. No, Sorrel says. You stood up without standing up. Clarence looks out the window. The world feels like it's speeding up without asking if he wanted to come along. He doesn't like being the center of attention. He spent years trying not to be noticed. But now, strangers are turning him into a symbol. Some for justice. Some for contempt. Carla walks by and slides a small box onto the table. Someone from the VA center dropped it off for him. Inside, a clean button-up shirt, a pair of new boots, a prepaid phone, and a note that simply says, Thank you, Sergeant Dri. Clarence stares at it a long moment. He doesn't need gifts. He needs peace. But maybe this is the cost of making the world look at something it's ignored for too long. Clarence, Harold says quietly. You ever feel like people don't see you till it's too late? Harold doesn't look up from the register. Only every damn day. What Clarence doesn't know yet is that his video is about to force a conversation in places he never imagined. Places that usually pretend men like him don't exist. The video doesn't fade like most trending clips do. It grows. By Thursday morning, the Mon Police Department issues a formal statement. We are conducting a full investigation into the incident involving Mr. Clarence Dupree. But the internet doesn't want a statement. They want action. They want names. And they already have them. Within hours, Officer redeletes his social media accounts. Officer Langley tries to go private, but not before someone screenshots his Facebook comments from years ago. Some of it's bad. Real bad. The kind of stuff that makes you wonder how he ever wore a badge. Protesters gather outside the department headquarters. Not thousands. Not hundreds. Just enough to fill a sidewalk. A quiet line of folks holding signs that read, I'm Clarence Dupree. No chance. No screaming. Just presence. That's all it takes. Meanwhile, journalists peel back the layers. Turns out this wasn't Langley's first complaint for profiling or even his fifth. There were reports filed and forgotten. Citizens who didn't know who to call. Letters that never reached the right desk. But Clarence did. And his one call knocked the entire tree down. Back at the diner, things have changed. Carla's been interviewed twice. Harold's photo is on a local blog. Customers show up just to sit in the booth Clarence was in. One guy even asked to take a selfie with the chair. Clarence shakes his head at it all. I'm not an attraction, he mumbles. You're a mirror, Carla replies. People just don't like what they see when they look in. Still, Clarence doesn't feel like a hero. Heroes get rest. They get safe. He's still sleeping in the same shelter. Still folding his jacket into a pillow at night. Still stretching the old pain out of his knees every morning. But something's different now. One evening, a van pulls up outside the shelter. Two men in suits get out and ask for Clarence. An envelope. Inside is a letter from the Secretary of Veterans Affairs. It apologizes for how he's been treated and offers an expedited housing voucher, a counselor, a caseworker, access to a therapist. I didn't ask for this, Clarence says, holding the letter like it's a riddle. No, sir, the younger man replies. But you earned it that night. Clarence doesn't sleep much. He lies on the cot staring at the ceiling, thinking about all the men he served with who didn't make it back, who never got letters, who never went viral, who were just forgotten. By Friday, the officers are suspended. The mayor of Mon gives a press conference. The chief of police stumbles through an apology that sounds like it was written by lawyers, but it doesn't matter much. Public pressure does what bureaucracy never could. Resigns. Langley refuses, but with the investigation heating up and more old cases being re-examined, his badge is hanging by a thread. Even the union knows he's dead weight now. Clarence watches it all unfold from a bench outside the shelter. A camera crew waits nearby, but he's not interested, not today. He lights a cigarette. He doesn't usually smoke, but some days just call for it. An older woman walks by, recognizes him, and pauses. Thank you, she says. Clarence doesn't ask for what. He just nods, because maybe finally people are starting to understand something he's known for years. Respect isn't something you give to people like him out of pity. It's something they deserve. And if it took one phone call, one diner, and one bad morning to teach that lesson, so be it. But there's still one thing left to say, and Clarence knows it won't come from a press release or a protest. It has to come from him. The following Sunday morning, the diner is unusually quiet. No cameras. No news vans. Just the regulars. The locals who come for Harold's eggs and Carla's gossip. The ones who were here before the headlines and will be here long after they disappear. Clarence walks in wearing that same army jacket. But now his posture is different. Not stiff, not proud, just present. Like someone who knows exactly where he stands. Even if the ground beneath him keeps shifting. Harold nods toward his usual booth. It's open. Clarence doesn't sit. He clears his throat, and for a moment, nobody notices. Then Carla sees him. Mr. Dupree, she says, setting down a tray. I got something to say. Clarence replies, eyes scanning the room. The diner quiets. I'm not a hero, he starts. I didn't plan to be a story. I came in for eggs and coffee like always. Like I have every Tuesday for years. He looks at Harold, then Carla. Y'all saw me. Not as a problem, not as a project, but as a person. He turns to the others. But some folks didn't. And maybe now that video got out, people are paying attention. That's good. But attention isn't the same as understanding. A few heads nod slowly. One man lowers his fork. See, Clarence says, tapping his chest lightly. I wore this jacket in the desert. I watched men I love die in the dirt for a country that forgets us the moment we take off the uniform. His voice stays even, calm, but every word hits like a hammer. I didn't ask for praise. I asked for a seat. I didn't demand a parade. Just a plate. He pauses. And still, I had to prove I belong. Clarence steps forward, now facing the room. There are thousands like me. You won't see them on the news. You won't hear their names. Some are homeless. Some are working jobs with bad knees and broken backs. Some just stopped talking cause they got tired of being invisible. He holds up a hand. But hear this. Being poor isn't a crime. Being tired isn't a weakness. And asking to be treated like a human being should never be met with suspicion. Carla wipes her cheek, trying to make it look like she's just rubbing her eye. It doesn't work. Clarence smiles gently. We all walk into places carrying stories no one sees. So the next time you see someone who looks like they don't belong, maybe they do. Maybe they belong more than you know. He nods once and finally takes a seat. Nobody claps. Nobody needs to. Sometimes the truth is loudest when it's quiet. The rest of the morning, folks come and go. Some leave cash on Clarence's table without a word. One woman hands him a handwritten letter and walks away. Harold brings him another coffee without asking. That afternoon, Clarence walks over to the shelter one last time. He packs his things. The apartment key from the VA is cold in his hand. Strange. Heavy. Later that week, the first news story fades. Then the next. Social media finds someone new to rage over. The world moves on. But Clarence doesn't. He plants roots in a neighborhood that sees him. In a place where people knock on his door not to question him, but to say hello. He starts volunteering at a nearby school, speaking to kids about service, about silence, about dignity. The staff don't quite know how to introduce him, so they don't. They just say, "This is Mr. Dupree." You'll want to hear what he has to say, because it turns out people listen now. But more importantly, they look, and they see. Let this story be a reminder. Not every hero wears a cape. Some wear jackets older than you. Some sit quietly with coffee. Some fight battles you'll never hear about. Respect doesn't come after you're gone. It should come while you're still here. So the next time you cross paths with someone who looks forgotten, speak. Don't stare. Listen. Don't assume. And when you can, stand up. Even if it's just by sitting down beside them. If this story moved you, take a moment today to check on someone who's been overlooked. Say something kind. Buy them a coffee. Look them in the eye.